Hello, Friendly Temple. I'm Dr. Aigner Moore, and I'll be bringing perspectives to you about checking in with your temple. Man, is it so important to check in with your temple, which is your body and which is the place where the Holy Spirit lives. Especially for Black men, this is a very important topic. As a doctor, I have so many different perspectives and views on this topic, and there are a lot of other doctors who also will be bringing some perspectives to you. So I am very honored and privileged to say that Dr. Rayleigh, your very own Dr. Rayleigh from St. Louis, Missouri, we have an interview together that I'll be sharing with you. And also I have perspectives from Dr. Joy and her panel. And so I'm super excited to get started. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into the video. Good evening, Dr. Rayleigh.
Good evening.
I'm so happy to have you here with me for this very casual conversation about men's wellness and the importance of checking in with yourself. First and foremost, my name is Aigner Moore. I am a very new Dr. Aigner Moore, training to be a pediatrician, and this is my mentor and friend, Dr. Rayleigh. And Dr. Rayleigh, can you tell everyone a little about yourself?
Well, I'm first and most importantly, I'm born and raised in St. Louis. Come up on the north side, went to the public schools all the way through, and was a pharmacist initially, and then later went to the University of Missouri, and then from there on to the University of Florida. And I am a family physician, and currently I am retired, so to speak, even though I'm still working. But I put in close to 40 years as a physician, with most of that time being in the St. Louis area. So St. Louis is a town that's near and dear to me. And I feel like I owe, because I've gotten a lot out of my life as a St. Louisan, and I've always felt like I wanted to give back.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I felt like you really did get back with all of the advocacy and all of the work that you've invested in our lives as students and now as doctors. A lot of people have been very successful under your wing. And so we are more than grateful just for that alone. But I'm also grateful for the experiences that you've had here. And as it pertains to our topic, Dr. Rayleigh, could you just tell us what it has meant for you and your own experiences advocating for yourself and being a self-advocate in the community in St. Louis?
I'll start with my reason for even picking the specialty that I picked. And again, this is not to, as we say nowadays, cast any shade on any other specialties, but I picked family medicine because of the fact that I felt that the family was in crisis. And I still feel the family is in crisis. So I wanted to pick a specialty, a primary care specialty, like pediatrics, family medicine, gynecology, internal medicine, where we could affect the lives of the people that we take care of, not only in health, but in their attitudes and their behaviors. Mm-hmm. So what I have experienced as a physician is a certain amount of frustration in terms of as we say, lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I have approached it from so many ways, and I haven't given up, but I really want to see the people of St. Louis experience a better level of health, because we really do have some serious health issues in the city of St. Louis, in the metro St. Louis area.
And that's so important. When I think about that and some of the discrepancies and also just the inconvenience, what is it like? I don't know. I guess the amount of self-advocacy that a lot of people feel they are have access to in St. Louis is just very little. Sometimes it's little education, and sometimes it's just, I don't know, just the plain discrimination against Black men in general. And right. So as a Black man, there have been times, I'm sure, where you felt like you had to advocate for yourself in the medical field and also in the community. And what did that look like for you?
Well, first of all, I can say I'm nobody is happy to be traumatized, but in a way, I'm happy to say I've experienced the things that most Black males experience, being stopped by police and most of the time unnecessarily, and the various microaggressions is the word we like to use that you suffer in the course of your lifetime. But what I think I have seen that made the difference in my life, because I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I can honestly say this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I have children myself that I raised in St. Louis. But what bothers me is that some of the external factors you are not as able to do a lot about. But one thing for sure you can do something about is the internal factors. Yes. And that is where I think while we work through our organizations and agencies, everything from through churches and Urban League and NAACP and whatever agency, there's still a certain amount of responsibility that is the most important that we have to take upon ourselves. And that is what bothers me the most with our families, and especially with the men, is that I'm seeing this persistent dysfunctionality within the family as being a part of the reason why our health is suffering.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think, with that key point, do you think that there's ways that men can be more hands-on and, I guess, more in control of their health as just, a starting point?
Oh, definitely. The first thing is, and forgive me if I throw out statistics, but I think the statistics are important for us to look at. One of the key factors, I think, is this single parenting problem. Mm-hmm. And there are some people who try to say that does not exist, but it does. And when you look at the fact that the great majority of children, African American, in the Metro St. Louis area are coming up in single parented homes, we've got to look at this. Now, is that meant to be directed against single parents? No. I have been a single parent myself for a number of years with my first two kids before remarrying. But the reason I bring it up is we have to look at what is the ideal situation versus what is just what's really happening. And I think it's always better to have an intact family unit. And what we are seeing, not only in St. Louis, but all across the country, is a breakdown in what we used to look at as the American family. It is very, very different than it used to be. And now many of our young men grow up without a man in their life, influencing them, helping them to understand how important their health is, and helping them to understand the kind of sacrifices they have to make to maintain that good health. And that comes from having had someone who's close enough to you that you respect, you listen to, and hopefully you see a lot. And when we have this broken homes that is become very big in America and particularly large among African Americans, that's hard to do because a lot of people don't know their dad, don't see their dad, and don't have a connection with their father to be able to pull spirituality, common sense, a work ethic, a respect for women, a respect for families, a desire to take care of yourself because you have hope. And that's one of the things that I see as a big problem. A lot of times people don't take care of themselves because they don't have hope. They don't see any reason to take good care of themselves because they are in a violent situation or a hopeless situation, or they're socioeconomically deprived. And so they think, why do I need to not smoke or not drink or not, do whatever it is that they decide to do that could be detrimental to health?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought up hope as well, because you're right. If you don't have hope in the rest of your life, your outcomes, what you feel might be the outcome of your forced decisions, or you're in situations where you have different stressors and you're forced to make different decisions, it's very easy to lose hope. And I feel that a lot of people have lost hope in their health as well because of the loss of trust. Mm-hmm. And where do you feel like we go with this? Like, how can we how can we find ways to build trust in the community again, so that people can look as healthcare providers in general as people who are on their side and want to see them advocate for themselves and be a healthier community?
Well, that's the question and the answer that we need, and certainly it's going to be faceted answer. It's I look at it from an internal and external, and when I look at the external factors, I see first of all education. So that means somehow or another, our school systems are going to have to take health teaching very, very serious. I remember when I was in school, a health class was something that was, and it was pretty much a joke. It was, brush your teeth, comb your hair, take a bath. That was what it was all about. So I have not had a chance to see what health classes are like in our public schools, but they should be extremely serious in terms of teaching people how important it is for them to develop healthy habits and healthy eating and exercise. From there, naturally, you got to also look at the family, where the most important place where people learn in the family is in the kitchen, where we eat and share, talk, discussion, and we share cultural appetites, both for what is happening to us outside the home, but also for what we eat. So that you have to have that intact, at least family teaching that's going to affect it. Then from there, you got to look at the church. I can honestly say, once yourself that my thing for medical students has always been, don't come to medical school and just learn medicine. Yes. You come to medical school, you need to get your spirituality together. And yes. I've always said that. And so I'm not just saying that because you're here, that's what I believe. And people need to understand that there's a certain amount of discipline and wellness that's built into your spirituality. Yeah. Because there's certain things that you will do and will not do that are going to be a part of healthy living. So the church and church programs, education, the family, mm-hmm. and then naturally the other important thing is your healthy mental status, your healthy emotional and mental self, which is a combination of all of these things put together. So you can see, if we're ever going to fix this problem, it's going to require a coming together of all these different outside forces, all with the central theme of trying to get people to take responsibility for yourself. Because a hopeless person has no reason to do anything but live for right now. And when you live for right now, that is not going to be fruits and vegetables and, drinking water and exercising and developing a healthy spiritual attitude. That's whatever makes me feel good right now. And that's what bothers me. The other thing too that I think is big, and some people would criticize me for it, but I do believe it, is I think the institution of marriage has taken a big hit. And I think the institution of marriage, which is a part of the family unit, is important for our health. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, I was looking at these statistics just recently, of all the groups of people that are not marrying, and I'll try to say this carefully, because marriage all straight across the board is down, okay? Down, straight across the board. But of all the ethnic groups that are not marrying, the African-American ethnic group is the highest. So what I mean is, we are the least to get married among the people that are not getting married. That's trouble. Then when you look at the fact that population-wise, the last 20 years, we just saw the census, we're stuck in 12%. Latino population has now gone up to 20%.
Wow.
And they are a ethnic group that believes in family. Mm-hmm. Asian group has increased, believes in family. We have got to reinstate the sense of people wanting to be a part of a family, a healthy, functional family.
Yeah. And just going back to that family, this is very generational, it seems. You know, if you're raised a certain way because your father didn't know how to do it, then you raise your children in a way that you hope to be better than before. But if you really, you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't show what's not your own experience. And so you do the best that you can, and you're happy with the best that you can do, but it's generational.
Yeah. And the same thing is happening with the family. I hate to say it, that happens often with the church, is they do what we call, you've probably heard the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I have heard people say, well, what good is marriage? I said, well, it's not the institution of marriage that's the problem. It's
Yeah.
the people who marry.
Yeah. Right.
It's not the church and Jesus that is the problem. It's the people who participate that. And so when they get upset with the church and they say, well, I don't want to go to church. Well, I don't, whatever. They're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They're not sticking with the teachings, the word, the way of, Judeo-Christian teachings. They're looking and being distracted by the people that may be misleading them that, are really not representing Christ.
Yeah.
And so somehow we've got to get folks to understand, get with the principle of it and not just look at the people that may be misrepresenting it.
Yes.
And I don't want any part of that. But
Yes.
there's still good that is there.
Absolutely. And everybody has to get it for themselves. You can't really judge the whole thing, the whole picture based on what you see someone else doing. Sometimes we can have a misinterpretation of what other people are doing, but we also have to kind of rid ourselves of this attitude that Christianity and life in general is supposed to be a feel good thing all the time. And I think because we lack the ability to be okay with delayed gratification and we always look for like that instant gratification, these things like health and having autonomy and advocating for yourself and full wellness and holistic well-being do not align with instant gratification. Actually, a lot of this is practicing the same thing over and over and over until you get it right. But knowing that you can have peace while you are in distress, while your flesh is burning and hurting, you can have inner peace during hard times.
No doubt about it. I mean, believe it or not, you just touched me where I live, because as you know, I'm suffering with loss of vision and hearing.
Yes.
And what I am learning is that there's a certain amount of growth that comes from dealing with your suffering.
Yes.
In fact, I can honestly say in my life that my best lessons have been learned through suffering.
Totally agree.
Yeah, my best lessons have come through things that have happened. So when in James, when it says count it all joy, we need to look at that really seriously. I know that has become my theme Bible chapter now. It's all of James. I love every part of it from beginning to end, because there's a lot of the count it all joy when you fall into diverse situations, and you've got to find the joy in the suffering, because Christ has got something that he is doing.
Yeah.
And we don't understand it. I mean, I when I first started dealing with losing my vision, I was very upset. Well, why now, when I think I can be of the greatest good, would I lose vision and hearing? Well, God's got a plan, and what I've got to do is just keep moving.
Absolutely.
Keep moving. You don't stop.
I think whatever God has for you to do, and whatever God has for each and every man to do who is looking to now advocate and, really be mindful about where their purpose is in life, he is going to qualify you so that you can do that thing. And so if there's something that you're trying to do and you're trying to do it over and over again and you're not able to do it successfully, it's either number one, that's not what God has for you to do, or number two, you're trying to do it your own way instead of his way. Absolutely. And either way, you end up failing either way.
There's no doubt about it, because God is going to do it in a way that he gets his glory.
Exactly.
And I like that. Because right now with me suffering with, and again, I'm not harping on that because I'm looking for sympathy. But what I'm saying is, when I do something now, I know it's God.
Yes.
I can't see it. So, I mean, I'm looking at you right now on the Zoom and I cannot see you.
Yeah. Yeah. And look,
But yeah, but God has not, I know you still look well, but
yeah.
what I'm saying is your facial details, I cannot make out. But God has told me in my heart that I'm not through with you yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't get your rocking chair and go out on the front porch, Mike.
Right. Right.
So you can see that's why I'm still in it.
Yes, yes. It's not time to give up now. There's so many people who would benefit and who are continuing to benefit from just your presence and your words and even your anecdotal experiences.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you. Glad
yes,
to,
so we
yeah.
appreciate that so much. And so, with all of this being said, and some of the factors that we have to now consider, a lot of them we don't have a lot of control over: the family, the community, the people around us, and the way that people kind of express Christ. We can't really control how everyone is doing it and the family members that we have and things like that, but we can control ourselves. And I
Right.
think when we start to talk about, like, how do I self advocate for myself, how do I build my own autonomy and my own empowerment to really take control of myself and my body, my wealth, or my health, I'm sorry, that
Mhm.
can be very overwhelming. And
Mhm.
so, what are some of the first steps you would say for someone who's hearing this and now feels empowered and feels very hopeful that they, want to take the next steps? What do you feel like the next steps kind of look like?
Oh yeah. Well, the first step is, and again, you're touching on things that are near and dear to my heart. The first step is what helped change my life, and most of the people that I know that have obtained some, if not all of their dreams, was having someone in your life that says to you, you can do it.
Amen.
Getting positive people in your life. So the first thing I think we all need to do is we need to go out and find mentors and
Yes.
sponsors and coaches and people that have shown through their lifestyle that they are serious, intentional, hopefully godly, and then try to get that person on your team.
Yeah.
And then listen to the advice that that individual has to have. The next thing to me, after trying to gather mentors, is you need to take a serious look, again, back to James. You need to look in the mirror and see who it is that you're dealing with and not forget who you were. In other words, I know now what are some of my flaws. I got plenty of them.
Yeah.
But if I turn my head away from my flaws and say, I don't have any flaws, I'm happy with me as I am, that's just me, then you're never going to get better.
Mm-mm.
If you know for a fact that, say, for instance, my daddy never spent time with me, or my mother never spent time with me, or I don't have this particular thing, you go out and try to fill in the spots that you know you are missing.
Mm-hmm.
It may take a church group, it may take a mentor, it may take relationships with other people that you know, but you have to actually come up with a dream and a plan to reinvent yourself
Yes.
so that you can go towards the goal that you wish to obtain. And then you have to think big. And that's again where, to me, where God comes in, is that
Yeah.
we on our own have a tendency to think small.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
God loves to take people that come from nothing and do
Yes.
something with them.
Absolutely.
I always, my father was a maintenance man and my mother never graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I did, God did that and set
Yeah.
me up for that. And so what I'm saying is we have to go out and fill in the blanks of the things that we know we're missing. But if we're not going to look in the mirror and say, I know that, my behavior is not right.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't be doing this, or I know I shouldn't be. Okay, don't forget what you just said. Now go out and do something to try to fix it, and then get you a big dream and hook yourself up with the people that you can be successful with. One of the things that me and some of my retired friends are trying to do, and this is not an advertisement for us. I'm really just saying that I've met with other people that are retired, and we are trying to find ways to get ourselves into the lives of people that wish to do what I just described.
Absolutely.
And so this is a power that I think is available in the older folks that they can still give to the younger folks. Yeah. But we have to hook up with them. And so that's the other step. And then naturally, as you are and I am, a big believer in getting hooked up with God.
Yes.
This battle cannot be fought by yourself.
Absolutely.
I just can't do it. I'm not strong enough. I have to have it. And I tried times of doing without it. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I have to have God on my side, and I have to seek God. And so I hated that some people, when you say that to them, they think, oh, here we go with that again.
Yeah.
But it's the truth.
It is. It is the truth. As you were speaking, that is the almighty truth. As you were speaking, I literally just thought of just 3 H's, right? When the first thing you said was a mentor. And in that case, we have to humble ourselves.
Right.
That's the first thing.
Yes.
And then number 2, we have to look into the mirror and see, who are we really dealing with? What am I really looking at? And then what does God say that I am? And then that is the honesty. The honesty is, who am I looking at? But the holiness we get from God. That's the last H. And so we need to humble ourselves, be honest with ourselves, and then seek that holiness so that we have the guidance to do exactly what we need to do in God's purpose.
You just come up with something that ought to be in a book. That's pretty good. I like that.
Look, that's a good one.
That's good.
Look, let's take that to the generation. Every father who wants to start today can literally just start there, and then take that to your son, and then those sons can take that to their sons, and that can be the generational trend.
That's right. It really makes a difference. And then we haven't even gotten into generational curses, and that is a big, big problem.
Yes.
I mean, it is a generational curse. When you had a baby, and this is not, again, picking on anyone who had a baby as a teen, but it becomes a generational curse if you had a baby at 15, and then your baby has a baby at 15, and then her baby has a baby at 15, somebody's got to break the generational curse.
Yep.
Somebody's got to say, wait a minute, I'm going to do this right, so that the buck stops here. And we have generational curses in all sorts of directions, not just, with baby making, with drinking, with drugs, with incarceration, with pornography, with all sorts of stuff. And somebody's got to have the strength to stand up and say, I'm going to break this in my family. I'm going to make the sacrifices that need to be made so I can turn this around in my family.
Absolutely.
Those are the kind of heroes I think we should be looking at, instead of some of these people that, I met a woman the other day who lives in Columbia, Missouri, and we have never met in person. We talked on the phone. She is totally blind and has been blind for the last 6 or 7 years. She runs a business and has never missed a day of work.
Wow.
Runs a nonprofit, and her whole life is about giving to other people. She doesn't waste her time fooling around, worrying about her blindness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thank God that someone introduced me to her on the phone to meet. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, our race, we don't have time for foolishness anymore.
No more time.
We have got to get serious, and our men have got to get serious, like our women have gotten serious, and stop just notching our belts.
Yeah.
And settle down and get this thing done.
Yeah.
I mean, yourself in medical school, I've talked for years and years of women. Some of the women have said to me, and I laugh when I think about it, they say, well, doc, where am I going to find a man? And, because they are thinking I'm doing all this, hard work to get to be a doctor. And I just have to keep telling them that you got to believe that the Lord is forming someone for you. And what you got to do is keep being the right you, so that you're ready when the two of you come together.
Yes. Be what you want to attract.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But you can't just give up on it. But it's a problem, and our men have got to realize that the women are waiting on us to step up
Yes.
to the plate. We got to be leaders.
Yeah, we got to lead.
I think men's groups in churches is some of the most important things. And again, that's not to put down women's groups, but boy, does it help a church when it has a strong men's group.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh, iron sharpeneth iron. It's, that's where every church I've been involved in, the ones that are successful have a strong men's group, men that want to go out and lead other men, and iron sharpeneth iron. An older man pouring his life into a younger man hooking up with an older man. It's just got to be done. As the Bible says, a cord of three is not easily broken.
Yeah.
Got to have it.
Gotta have it, man. Wow. Oh my gosh. This has been some phenomenal points that you made, Dr. Rayleigh. We appreciate you so much just for the time that you gave to us this evening. I hope that men can really hear what you had to say and really make it their own. Just taking advantage of those points about family, about mentorship, about education. And we got to stop running from education. Like, that's a whole nother conversation within itself. But if we really want to take control of our lives again, understanding that God is in full control and we can do all things through him, and things will work out for our good if we do it his way. But we can't control all the other things around us, and we can't keep seeking this instant gratification. We have to take control of our own selves through ways of our health, our advocacy, and really find strength in our wellness. And that is how we check in with our temple. That's how we check in with our bodies.
Absolutely. I tell you, as I get older, I realize God is definitely in control, because everything I've tried to do, I mess it up.
Yes.
I'm almost afraid to plan because it's a joke. It's like the things that I plan, they're going to blow up most of the time.
Yeah.
And then I get a surprise from God and say, he had it under control all along.
All alone. All alone.
That's what we got to do. So thank you for asking me. I'm happy to share, and I just hope that God will send us some more Aigner Moores and some more men that want to serve God and help people like you and so many other students that you and I know.
Yes.
Doctors now. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, we are so grateful for you, Dr. Rayleigh. Thank you so much for being a mentor.
If I can help you, call on me, I will do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Man, Dr. Rayleigh really hit on some good points. The importance of having family around, the importance of mentors, and even the importance of making sure that you check in with yourself, with your spiritual self, with your mind, body, and soul, and just being very mindful, but realizing that it's time to prioritize this and we can't waste any more time. Men, we need you. We have to break those generational curses, and it starts with you. So we're not ending here. We'll go ahead and transition into Dr. Joy's panel and the great points that she'll be bringing on this same topic, checking in with your temple. Keep on enjoying it, because I am. Let's go on in.
That learned behavior, right? I remember when I was younger seeing, older Black men just kind of ignoring a lot of ailments and just, this is multifactorial. There's the socioeconomic factors, there's a health literacy component. Even times when people try to pursue, healthcare, but because of implicit bias, racial discrimination, they don't receive the appropriate care and then get dissuaded to not, go that route anymore. Take home message is number one, what Sekou said in regards to listen to your body, but even more importantly, preventative medicine, meaning that you are going to see a doctor routinely, even if you feel good.
For everybody on here, what is health, right? Health is really optimizing energy, that you can actually have the energy to do what you want. Because when you're sick, what are you doing? You're laying in the bed because you don't have any energy, right? The body is depleted. And so in order to optimize your energy, if you think of your body like a car, you have to put things into it that it's going to function optimally. If you eat junk food, the body just kind of, you treat your body like a human garbage disposal, and the body just kind of gets rid of it, but it doesn't really get anything out of it. and it takes more energy to break that food down than the energy that it's getting from it. So you want to eat foods that are, at the end of the day, after you finish digesting it, you got more in the tank than what you use, right? So the diet is important. The exercise is important. You talked about earlier, folks using marijuana to medicate. Any type of exercise you do, the endorphin high that you get, right? You release endorphins, you release dopamine. That's what antidepressants do. The brother Dr. Vault was talking about popping pills. You don't need to pop a pill. If you get a good workout in, you're high. Like, that's a high right there. You're creating more energy for yourself, right? And so to me, it's all health is all about energy, creating energy. So what you put in is what you get out. And then the last piece about the mind work. The mind work is critical, whether it's just, having 15 minutes a day where you don't talk, or whether it's meditating, or whether it's something where you're able to calm this thing down to really realign things so you can really focus on what's going on. There's so much that goes on in here that affect what goes on out here that we're not aware of. When I talk about mind, body, spirit, mind is first, because once you can get this mind right, then your decisions change. Exactly. And once your decisions change, your life changes. And that's it.
How do we get people to one, you got the ones that don't want to go, then you ones that go and just whatever the doctor says, they don't share anything, they don't learn anything. I nearly had a family member die because of a lack of advocacy. COVID. Wow. They put her in a room for palliative care. Palliative care. She had no
organ failure, nothing. They wanted to just take her off the
ventilator.
They
just wanted to take her off the ventilator and let her die.
We had a very white-looking Persian doctor advocate on her behalf and found out they hadn't given her medication. They said they had, and she immediately, when they gave her the right medication, went into a rehabilitative plan rather than a palliative.
And she's home now. But they basically said, go on and start making the plans because we'll just keep her comfortable. They had her on a paralytic. They had her on, heavily sedated, and basically go make the plans. She's gonna die. What is the way that we need to do that? Because we can't come and cuss folk out. But I do know that we need to learn to advocate for our own health, and men in particular.
Well, one thing I'll tell you that most people don't realize is that as the patient, you have a right to all your medical records, and so even when you're in the hospital, you can ask for, I want to see a copy of my medical records, and they have to bring them, furnish you with a copy. Let's say you're feeling like maybe the care is subpar and you want to have a second opinion, you can do that. The other thing, I think, to your point before about people getting surgery and not knowing what was taken out, a lot of times it's on the provider, and unfortunately, it's not a lot we can do about that. But for me, when I would see people, it was clear to me that they didn't have the educational level to know what to ask. And they also felt embarrassed because they didn't have the educational level to know what to ask. You'll be surprised also, Dr. Joy, how many people don't know what medications they take. I'm like, what medication? Exactly. They're like, ask her. Whoa. Ask her. So we also need to, this is some of the work I do. We need to get out of this victim state where, we're in just, we're just victimized and we're looking for people to take care of us. We have to take ownership of our own health. Everybody.
Doctors will spew out words I don't understand. I'm going, could you tell me what that is? I don't know what that is.
Right. But you have the courage to ask that question. A lot of people don't.
Right.
Because a lot of people feel, the doctor's up here, I'm down here. I'm this little person. Who am I to ask? But they really should be asking.
There's still this gap that's there about us not being educated, not having access, not having resources, and then being treated a certain way in the hospitals.
Everyone needs to have a healthcare proxy, and a healthcare proxy gives someone else authority to make medical decisions on your behalf. For instance, this would have been good to have, Joy, for your cousin who was on a ventilator and could not speak. So everyone needs to have that. You need to have multiple copies of that. One for, yourself. You need to have one for your actual proxy and have a backup for someone else. And you need to actually guide your proxy on what your expectations would be in case you are, unable to speak or, in a near death situation. And so that goes with you to the hospital. And since we're in the COVID area, say for instance, if you are accompanying a family member or loved one to the hospital in the ambulance or you're following behind, you're going to be stopped here in New York. You will be stopped at the door, right? Security will not let you in, but you have the right to request to speak to a social worker. You either need to speak to a patient navigator or a nurse manager. Every floor has one. You need to get their name, their number, and be in communication as their proxy for this, for the patient. And that is how you're able to request, any plan of care, a treatment plan, discharge plan, and what is being done for your patient, for your family member. And by doing that, you need to call every day, right? And so they need to know that someone is watching, right? And being held accountable for what's happening in the hospital, even though you're not able to be there with them.
It's this part of this that Dr. Joy steps in and leans into and says, what is going on that a Black person comes in and you cannot see their humanity? So given that reality, I need to make sure you see their humanity. I need to make sure that anyone in the space talking about it, calling in and engaging are aware that we're dealing with whole human beings here, because I don't know that I believe that the folks that are working with Black people all over this country right now, their humanity. I don't believe that that's true. And I think, Arthur, what you say is right. Kimmy, what you say, calling every day, letting them know that this person matters. I think it's sad that we have to make this person matter. Advocacy made the difference between life and death. And so how many others are there out there? Not Dr. Joy's family. How many other families? How many people walked in alone? Came in alone. What happened to them? And was there an assumption that they weren't someone of value? I don't have the answer to that, but I have to say, based on the data, based on the numbers, I'm going to have to weigh in on the side of, yes, advocate. Y'all laugh. I say, send a drone in. I don't care what has to happen. We need to show up for our people, because we can't be promised that someone else is going to show up for them, even though they've taken an oath.
And sometimes you have to be strategic. If you have someone in your family who feels very confident speaking to people, have that be the advocate.
Point one person.
Right, that person. Think about who it is. Not the person who's willing to get in somebody's face necessarily, but somebody who's a little bit more strategic, and somebody who's, and say we can back them up, but that's going to be the face of the family, because you have to be strategic. We know that there is bias and racism out here. We know that people are going to judge you, how you look, how you speak. This is what's happening to our folks. But when it comes to life and death, I'm going to send, my cousin who's super proper to the door. and I'm not gonna be mad. I'm gonna send them, and I'm gonna tell them what I want to be said, and how I want, and how I'm gonna support them in calling every day or what have you. So I think there's so many dynamics, but we do have some control. We do have some things that we have to do strategically to navigate this. And it's wonderful to build relationships with folks who have influence.
Everybody needs to have a plan. You need to have something where if something does go in a direction I had not intended, what do I have in place? Because I want people to get some of these takeaways. Obviously, a second opinion is just fine. Making certain you're there every day, so that they know they're going to get that phone call from you or that FaceTime or whatever it is. They need to know that. That's one of the takeaways as well. And to be able to find out who is in charge and making the decisions. So those are things that are real takeaways. And again, if you can't do it, find someone else, a proxy that Kemme talked about, that you have to be able to get someone there to advocate.
But I think that there's a lot of people who, as you mentioned, don't have someone like me that they can turn to, and maybe don't have a physician that's caring for them that they can trust. And so I think some type of advocacy network where people like me who are willing to give a little bit of their time to help others out I think is key. And I think, sometimes all it takes is a phone call and a 10-minute conversation to understand what's happening better. Because, when you go to medical school, one of the things they tell you is that you're going to learn a new language. And that's true to an extent, but we don't do a very good job as physicians in terms of translating that language back into something that people who are non-physicians can understand. So sometimes it's as simple as that. It's as simple as just being a translator. Sometimes it is true advocacy where, you're saying, I understand why you're making these decisions, but these decisions aren't in line with this family's values. The family wants doesn't want to be this aggressive. They're more worried about quality of life. Or the family feels that, they want to go down, they want to fight, they want to fight to the end, and they want to do everything that they can. So I think having someone that can have those conversations, and I think as with anything in life, I don't think physicians are, as a group, bad people, but as with any group, there are some bad people within that. There's some bad apples in any group that you look at within our society. But I think we also, as physicians, have been poorly educated on the history of what we've done as a field to people of color, and why there is that inherent suspicion against us.
Man, oh man, I am so glad and so thankful for everyone who was able to listen in to the perspectives and the ideas that were shared today. I hope that you were able to take at least one point from that and think about where you can start as it pertains to gaining your own autonomy and really self-advocating for yourself and really checking in with your temple. It is so important that we prioritize this as all people, but especially as Black men, and I hope that these points in this video were very helpful to allow you to do that. Thank you so much for joining in, and I hope that you have enjoyed all of the other great experiences and great events during this wellness weekend. Again, my name is Dr. Moore, and I'm so grateful to be here, so thankful for you guys.